Amen. The Saturday Evening Post was one of the most well-known and beloved magazines that has ever been published in America. Maybe some of you remember getting it. Some of you may even still get the magazine today. Those particular magazines were famous because the front cover would have a well-known and beloved picture. It would either be painted or drawn, and it would really kind of catch your attention. One of the most famous paintings and famous covers was from 1936. It was called Tipping the Scales. You'll notice the picture that's on the screen. Tipping the Scales, if you see, it's a beautiful older woman who has come and she has brought a chicken. And so she must be a good Baptist. So she's getting ready to weigh the chicken. And she's looking at the scale, but I want you to notice what her finger is doing. She's lifting up on the scale with her finger and really just looking at the scale. And then notice what the butcher is doing. He is pushing down on the scale with his finger. Each is trying to steal from the other person. Sometimes stealing might not be as obvious as this picture, but we as Christians have various creative ways to steal. This morning we're going to be looking at the Eighth Command. The Eighth Command is found in Exodus chapter 20. We've been going through the 10 Commandments over the last few weeks in a series called Making America Godly Again. I'm going to have a word of prayer, and then after I pray, we're going to look at this scripture and dive into God's Word. Will you pray with me? Lord, I love you. And it is an honor to be in your house this morning. Lord, I pray that you will open up our ears and our eyes, help us to have a receptive heart, so that we will understand what it means to steal and how we as believers steal from you. Lord, I love you, I praise you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Exodus chapter 20, verse 15. God's word says this. 4 simple words. You shall not steal. You shall not steal. Now, I don't know if you're like me, but whenever I see that text, I might remember a time in my life when I stole something. For me, I remember whenever I was about 6 years old going to a gas station, and they always have the good candy down at the bottom for 5 cents. And get the gum and the different things. And I remember as a 6-year-old kid just stealing some of that candy, and my parents caught me. But then now as I come to this text, part of me just kind of thinks, that doesn't really apply to us anymore. Sometimes we think, well, I know what stealing is. I don't really do that. This doesn't really apply to me. Well, the title of my sermon this morning is How Christians Steal. How Christians Steal. Because what we see in this text this morning is it covers a very broad basis. And maybe there's things that you're doing that you don't realize, you've never thought about, but you are stealing in the eyes of God. And so what I want to do this morning is first just kind of paint an overall picture of the principle behind this command, and then we're going to give some real life applications. Okay? And so if you are ready, if you'll just say, I'm ready. All right, awesome. I'm glad you are. Let's dive in. All right, number 1, we need to recognize and realize that God owns everything. God owns everything. Psalms chapter 24 and verse 1 says this. The earth is the Lord's, and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. The Lord owns everything. And so everything you have, everything you could ever have, belongs to the Lord. He's the one who causes the sun to shine. He's the one that causes the grass to grow. He's the one who causes it to rain. Everything is God's. Now, you might be thinking, well, I hear you. I hear what you're saying, but I'm the one who worked for it. Maybe you're thinking, look, I went to school. I got an education. And I worked hard for my job. I've made something of myself. All right, so let me track with you a little bit and ask you just a few questions. All right, so who created you? Right? Who gave you strength to do that job? Who gave you the mental capacity to do that job? Who does it belong to? Okay, we're on the same page. Awesome. Good first point. I'm feeling it. It's great. All right, God owns everything. But number two, and we've got to know this, we've got to believe this, we are simply stewards of what God has given us. We're simply stewards. It's not ours. Everything is God's. He is simply letting us borrow it for a few years. I remember whenever I was in high school, first got my driver's license, I was really excited. My brother-in-law let me borrow his Trans Am. And this thing was souped up, lots of horsepower. And he wouldn't let me drive it by myself, he didn't trust me yet, but he let me drive it as long as my sister was in a passenger seat. As soon as we got out of the driveway, man, I just floored that. I mean, it was just fishtailing. I was flying around the corners, just having a great time. And as I was going too fast around the corner, my sister looked at me and firmly said this, "Be careful, this car is not yours." Some of you are just living life with all that God's given you, all He has blessed you with, just flying through life as though it's yours. But if you listen carefully, you'll hear the Spirit behind you saying, "Be careful, it's not yours." Everything you have, everything you possess, you're just a steward of that. And there will come a day when you will be held accountable. The Bible says that everything you have, you will be held accountable for. And so with this broad understanding that everything is God's, we are simply stewards. I want to look at several ways that Christians steal. First, we need to ask the question, well, what is stealing? What does it mean to steal? Stealing is simply taking what's not yours. Taking what's not yours. It really has two forms, privately and publicly. Private stealing is called theft. Whenever you steal something privately, no one's aware of it, at the moment no one sees it, it's called theft. I remember the very first run-in I had with a thief was whenever I was 11 years old. My father had taken a position at a church. We moved several hours away, and so we were getting the house ready, getting it fixed up. And so we needed a hired hand. We needed someone for just a few hours to help around the house. So my dad went to a homeless shelter and said, "Hey, I would love to hire someone to come and help me for a few hours. Do you have anyone who's trustworthy?" The man, he made this statement. He said, "If you see that man sitting right over there, I trust him with the keys to my house." But Dad thought, well, that's great, have a house, you can come and let's put him to work. He was at the house, he was working. I was 11 years old, and I had a wallet. Now, you men, I don't know if you remember when you first got your wallet, whenever you put it in your back pocket, it takes a little while to get used to kind of sitting on it. A lot of times it's just not really all that comfortable when you're a little kid. Y'all are looking at me like you don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe it was just me. Right? It was uncomfortable for my little skinny self. And so what I would do is I'd take the wallet and I would just put it somewhere. Just put it close by. So I had all of my life savings in this wallet, $11, $10 bill, and 2 ones. And I knew it was in there. I had it on the counter. Well, this man, he came and he said, look, if you get some better cleaning supplies, then I'll be able to clean a little bit better. I was like, well, that's brilliant. He wants to work hard. Let's go get him some good cleaning supplies. And as I was walking out of the house, I saw my wallet. And I thought, well, you know what? It's cool. Right? Because if he's trustworthy to the keys to that man's house, surely I can trust him with my $12. So we left for about 30 minutes. Came back. As soon as we got home, the man said, look, I gotta go. I gotta go. My dad said, wait, what are you talking about? We're planning this to stay all day. We just got some material for you. No, I gotta go. Dropped them off at the homeless shelter. Came back, and my dad knew what was up. As soon as he came out, he was like, we've been robbed. We just gotta find it. As soon as I was walking up, I was just walking up to my wallet, and I just knew Just new. I opened it up. The one was there. The other one was there. The 10 was gone. My life savings was gone. That's how it is with theft. Someone comes and simply takes something, and maybe no one notices it, but God knows. Theft is when you take something privately, even if no one knows but finds out later. But then there's another form of stealing. Stealing when you do it publicly, when everyone knows about it. It's called robbery. Robbery is usually whenever you take something by force. It's whenever you might use a gun or a knife, or you beat somebody, but it's whenever you take something from them. There's a well-known pastor who talked about being robbed. His name was Matthew Henry. After he was robbed by knife point, he came home and wrote this in his journal. He said, "Let me be thankful first that he has never robbed me before. Second, because he only took my wallet and he did not take my life. Third, let me be thankful because although he took all I possessed, it was not very much. And fourth, because it was I who was robbed and not I who robbed." Theft, robbing, stealing, that's what this passage is talking about. But the real question we need to ask this morning is, how do Christians steal? How do Christians steal? We understand what theft is, we understand what robbery is, we understand what stealing is, but maybe you're just sitting there and thinking, that's great, I hear you, but how does this apply to me? How do Christians steal? I'll give you 3 reasons. The first is this question: where do Christians steal? Where do Christians steal? Christians mainly steal at 3 places. The first, and probably the most common place where Christians steal, is at work. Is at work. There's a lot of different forms. Sometimes it's really obvious. Sometimes it's simply taking something that's not yours. But let me tell you, the most common way that Christians steal at work is whenever you take breaks, but you don't clock out. You follow me? And so you're allowed it depends on your job, but it might be you work 4 hours, then you get a 15-minute break. But so whenever you constantly take breaks on the clock, playing on Facebook, checking your emails, just goofing off, you're being paid to work, but you're not working, you're stealing. One study showed this. But let's say you do it for 15 minutes a day. The average person, that includes Christians, the average Christian does this at least 15 minutes a day. So if you do this for 15 minutes a day, every day for a year, that comes to 65 hours. That comes, depending on how many hours you work, 1 to 2 weeks worth of pay. So you could say, well, I would never steal 2 weeks worth of my paycheck. But you do. You do. Every time you are clowning around instead of working, you are stealing from your company. Not only is it whenever you clown around and don't work as you should, one of the biggest ways is what happens on April 15th, remind me. Some of you knew that one. Tax day. The biggest way people steal is through taxes. Perhaps it's one of the easiest ways that you steal. Some of you have already done your taxes. Some of you have already gotten your return back. Some of you, if you are children like me, you actually may have gotten something that says this. People with children, they don't even process your taxes until February 15th. And here's why. Because the easiest way to steal with your taxes is to claim independence that are not yours. Billions of dollars are spent every year because people are stealing from the government through taxes. Someone asked Jesus about that. Did you realize that? Someone asked Jesus. Someone came to the Pharisees because it was a hot issue then, just like it's a hot issue today. Do we pay our taxes? Especially think about it. The argument is this, the government sometimes does bad things, And so if you're paying taxes, it's almost like you're paying the government to do bad things if they're making bad decisions. So that question was asked to Jesus, do we pay tax or not? Jesus said, well, show me a coin whose image is on that coin. They said it's Caesar's. Jesus said, give to Caesar's what belongs to Caesar and give to God what belongs to God. We are not to steal from our work. There's a second place where Christians steal, and that is at home. At home. One way that you can steal is by taking another person's spouse. We dealt with that last week. It's called adultery, but it is also stealing of something else. That's why God's word paints the picture that all of the commandments are like a chain that are intertwined. And so if you break one commandment, you're really breaking them all. If you steal another person's life, you are committing adultery. You are wrecking a family. But there's a second way I really think is probably more common, and that's to steal your spouse's happiness. That's where you're so caught up on yourself and that you don't even care about the other spouse, that you're constantly just focused on what are your needs, that you're stealing your spouse's happiness. There's a well-known author whose wife passed away. As he was reading her journal the day after the funeral, he found these words. I just want my husband to love me and to appreciate me. And it just broke his heart, and he went to the freshly put place grave and was just crying out, I love you. I love you. Don't you know I love you? But it was too late. He had already stolen her happiness. There's a third way that Christians steal at home, and it's actually not just at home, it's specifically in the bedroom. 1 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 5. God's word says this, stop depriving one another, except by agreement for a time, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer and come together, so that Satan will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. Here, Paul was encouraging married couples to regularly have relationships together. He uses an interesting term there. He says, don't deprive each other. The word deprive was actually used in a working context. During that time period, people didn't have a yearly salary. They were paid every day. They would go, they would work all day. They would meet their master, and then they were paid. If you worked all day long, and you were getting ready to be paid, but your master said, I'm not going to pay you, it was said that you are depriving that person. You're not giving them what they have worked for. Here Paul uses that same analogy in marriage. He says whenever you are married, whenever you agree to be married, you are indebted physically to each other. Do not deprive each other of your physical needs. Christians can steal from their spouses. They can steal happiness. They can steal each other's spouses. There's a third way that Christians steal, and that's at church. At church. Specifically, you can steal from God. The Bible deals with this in the Old Testament book of Malachi chapter 3 and verse 8. God asked a question. He says, will a man rob God? That's a good question. Will a man rob God? And here's the answer. He says, yet you're robbing me, says the Lord. But then he begins to argue with an imaginary person. Well, how have we robbed you? It's a good question. How have we robbed you, Lord? This is God's answer. You have robbed me in tithes and offerings, says the Lord. Now, let's recap. We started off strong. How much of everything you have is God's? All of it. And so God's not asking for all of it back. But to show that you trust Him, to show that you really believe it's all His, He simply asked for some of it back, a small percent. And so whenever you give that small percent, you're saying, God, it's yours anyway, and I trust you. And the Bible tells us what he'll do. The Bible says, trust me, says the Lord. You realize that's the only place in all of Scripture where God says to test him? Normally he says, don't test God. But when it comes to finances, he says, test me. Try me. See if I won't open up the windows of heaven and bless you. Well, it doesn't mean that he's going to make you rich. It's not a prosperity gospel. It's that he'll bless your life. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want to miss a single blessing of God. I don't want to miss a blessing on my marriage or on my family or on the church. I want God to give me all that he's promised. There's a pastor that was the pastor at a church in Dallas. And he told about one of his members who came to him as a very young man. He just started college, was just started working. And he made a covenant with the pastor and with God that he would tithe 10% on everything he made for the rest of his life. Him and that pastor, they prayed together. So the first few years of his life, it was good. He was making about $10,000 a year, and so he was tithing in $1,000. Well, as he began to work, he ended up making some more money. He ended up making $100,000 a year. I'm not saying it always works this way. It's just the way it worked in that situation. He made $100,000 a year, paid in $10,000, and he made $1 million a year, tithing $100,000. But then once he started making $6 million, he started struggling because he really felt like he couldn't afford to pay in $600,000. He had property, he had a business, he had a lot going for him. And so he tried to track down the pastor that he made that deal with in the true story. He came back to that church, but the pastor was no longer there. He had moved on to another church. So he finally, after about 6 months, tracked that pastor down. Came and prayed to him, told him the story, said, look, I'm a businessman, I have a family, I have multiple businesses. I just can't afford to give $600,000 to the Lord. Will you pray with me that the Lord will just kind of forgive me, that we'll just kind of forget about that agreement that I made? And so the man said, all right, sure, let's pray. So he just started praying and praying and praying. And finally the man said, what are you doing? And the pastor said this, I'm praying that God will lower your salary to the point that you're comfortable with tithing again. Test the Lord. Test the Lord. If you're not tithing, test the Lord with 1%. Work your way up. It isn't to make you feel guilty. This is to tell you what does God's Word say. God's Word says that He'll bless you. And I don't want anyone to miss out on that blessing because we steal from the Lord. The real question that we need to ask is, why do people steal? Why do people steal? Two main reasons why people steal. The first is this: laziness. Laziness. It's a whole lot easier to take something that you haven't worked for than to work for something and to earn it. You know what God's Word says? It says that whatever your hand finds to do, do with all of your might as for the Lord. Whatever your hand finds to do, whatever God has called you to do, you do it for the Lord. Not because your boss deserves it, because maybe your boss doesn't, maybe your boss is a jerk. But God deserves it. God gave you that job. God put you there. And you're to work hard for the Lord. But there's a second reason, really the primary reason people steal is because they don't trust God. They don't trust Him. They are simply saying, God, you're not going to take care of me, so I'm going to take care of you. Every time you steal, you're shaking your fist at God saying, this is mine. You're not giving it to me, so I'm taking it. God's Word gives us promise after promise after promise. The book of Psalms tells us one of them. This is what the book of Psalms says. It says, no good thing does he withhold from the righteous. No good thing. And so if you're struggling with stealing in one way or another, if there's something you do not have, remind yourself of this. No good thing does he withhold. So what does that mean? If you don't have it, you don't need it. Will you pray with me? Dear Father, Lord, I thank you that you have given us your 10 Commandments. I thank you that they still apply to us today. Lord, they are still written to help us, not to hurt us. Pray each week that as we come in, Lord, that you will place these on our hearts. Speak clearly, speak loudly. Lord, I pray that you'll be with those here today who have fallen short. I thank you, Lord, that your word tells us what not to do, but then it offers forgiveness for those who have. I pray, Lord, that you'll be with those who committed any type of theft, Lord, whether it be at work or at home or even stealing from you, Lord. I thank you that no sin is unforgivable, Lord, that the ground is level at the cross. I love you, Lord, and I praise you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. This morning I simply want you to make this commitment that you're not going to steal from the Lord. Some of you may not be stealing financially, but you're stealing time. God has blessed you. God tells us that we're to come to the Lord's house to be encouraged. But you're wasting the time He's given you by not coming to church. You need to make a commitment that you're going to stop stealing from the Lord. You're going to stop stealing from your family. You're going to stop stealing from your work. I invite you to stand this morning, and I invite you to come.